in another game of drop points for Juventus. It seems like not much has changed from last year for Juve fans, despite the 3-0 win last week against Udinese. Talk about it. We got Nick, also known as Average Chiesa Enjoyer on Twitter. Second time on the pod. Nick, how's it going?
It's going good. I mean, yesterday definitely put a little bit of a blemish on the weekend, but otherwise it's going good. Thank you guys for having me again. It's an absolute pleasure. It was a great time last time, and I'm really excited to talk Serie A.
Calcio Guys, Adriano, Gianni, I'm Nicholas, and we're all full house today. I think it's the first time. I think, Gianni, were you there? No, you weren't there last week. No, it's the first time we're three of us plus a guest. So that's an honor, Nick, for this season at least. Episode 196 of the Calcio Guys. We'll have to do something special in 4 weeks, which would also be around the same time we celebrate our 5 years of doing the podcast. So 200 episodes in 5 years is pretty good. But enough about us. Nick, I mean, we might as well just get right into it. We've already talked to you. We've already had you on the podcast. We know why you're a Juve fan. We know you love Buffon. We know you don't like Allegri. If anybody follows you on Twitter, we know you love Chiesa.
Yeah.
First, I just want to know, before we get into the game, what were your expectations for the season? What did you think of the Mercato, the first game against Udinese, and then we could talk about Bologna.
Okay. First off, in terms of the Mercato, I wasn't expecting a lot, especially because they did miss out on European football for obvious, on the pitch, off the pitch reasons. I knew they were probably not going to buy a lot of players, but my main concern was just keeping the core players. So honestly, I put a post on like my account a couple of weeks ago. Like, I don't know if I enjoyed the stress on the pitch or like the stress off the pitch. Like, I don't know which one is worse, because all I keep seeing is rumors of every single player like leaving our club. Like, oh, okay, Chiesa's being sold to a Premier League team, or a Saudi team's coming in for him. And then we have this whole Lukaku saga, which thank God is finished. And my brother's a Roma fan, actually. So I'm very happy that, he can take Lukaku off our hands and that we don't have to hear these rumors anymore, because it was awful. But it was mainly just like keeping the core players. So in terms of like obviously keeping Chiesa, Vlahovic, Bremer, I'm not happy that we sold Ravello, but we will see how that pans out in a couple of seasons. I do think Weah is a really good signing, especially because considering, I guess, Danilo was our best right back, and now he's playing as a center back, and we still somehow employed DeCilio. So I think it's really good that we definitely did sell him, or that we definitely did buy him. I'm sorry. But yeah, I don't know. I was going into this season, my expectations, like there's two, right? There's one with my heart, which is obviously, okay, I want them to challenge for the title. And I still do believe wholeheartedly that if this team had, which again, I'm not going to go into too deep right now, but a more competent manager for the team, I do believe they can challenge for the title. But in my head, like, I would be happy if they basically came probably third, was like my expectation, like as a genuine expectation would be like third or second. And then they would probably, make a good run into the Coppa Italia, try to win that. That was probably my genuine expectations.
Going into Nick, so going into the game against Bologna, I mean, it's a common theme in Serie A. There's always controversy. There's always something going on. That's why we're here to talk about it. But yeah, I guess expectations going into the game against Bologna. Obviously, Bologna week one against Milan didn't play up to the Bologna that we kind of saw at the later stages of last season. Kind of came out pretty flat. Just I guess your expectations going into the game was, I mean, obviously you want every game the 3 points, especially at home. Expectations before the game, and then obviously your thoughts of how the game panned out, and then obviously with the final result, a 1-1 draw at home. With controversy, without controversy, however you want to say it, it was what it was. But I guess we just wanted to hear your thoughts about everything that took place against Bologna.
Yeah, well, in terms of expectations before the game, I'm not going to lie, whether it was, like with my heart or with my head, they were very high, especially after last weekend. Kind of like really quickly touching on the Udinese game. They played like very, very good in the first half. The second half, they kind of dropped off, but I was kind of okay with it, not because I'm like very happy with the performance, but if it was the reason of team like management, you know what, like we don't have to like gun out all of our players the entire game. They pretty much had the game wrapped up by the 45th minute. I was okay with it. So I was like, okay, that game, gave me a lot of confidence. The team looked so lively. Chiesa, honestly, I know obviously I have some slight bias, but like he looked like his pre-injury self, and like it was incredible. I really like, which is actually one of the only things I actually did see in the Bologna game as well. They did still have a very good press. I actually did notice that, like from the front, like Chiesa is running down people. Even Vlahovic is doing a good job at that. Like they were really trying to press the opponent up high up the pitch, which I really do like, because usually they just sit back and just wait till they get the ball, whether it's a set piece, whether it's something, and then they just slowly, play sideways. That was like a lot of last season. But they were really good against Udinese, and like I was extremely impressed. And I was hoping that, especially at home, they have the stadium pretty much almost sold out. They had, like their home performance. They have an entire week to prepare. Bologna does have a good manager in Motta, but like their squad is a lot more superior to Bologna. So I was like, okay, you know what? Like all this momentum, they probably should go in and probably win the game. And they did not do so. And again, like there are definitely like controversial things I want to go into, but they didn't deserve to win it regardless of the calls like on the pitch. Like even if you say this was a pen, this wasn't, whatever decisions were made, they were not deserving of it. Like Bologna that first half dominated us, and like it was really weird because like it just seemed like a really big disconnect from the midfield to the attack. Like all the defense was kind of just like trying to find the midfield, and then as soon as it got to the midfield, it was like a long ball, a really long through ball, something like that, and it was just disconnected. It wasn't like the first game. Whether that could be the team selection, whether that could be some tactics, something that happened, or just Motta kind of just outclassing Allegri, honestly. It wasn't the best. In terms of the controversy, I don't know. I have some thoughts about that. Like, I do think, and yes, okay, I could be a little bit biased because it was my team who scored it. I don't think that offside call was proper. I don't, because me and my brother argued this for about 20 minutes. And like, honestly, I do understand that like Rabiot is in a position, but the fact is that one, that was from like inside the 6-yard box. And like as a keeper myself, or like as a pass keeper myself, like the way Skorupski was moving to his right already, and the fact that he reacted at the same time, if Rabiot is there or he's not reacting any quicker. He still almost did save it. So he clearly did react to some degree, right? But regardless, in terms of the penalties, I don't know about you guys, but I thought both were penalties, like 100%. But like Illing Jr. kind of did take him out, and like that was kind of fortunate. It was one of those things where you just kind of like breathe and like hope that the ref doesn't call it, and he didn't. But I don't think this kind of narrative of it being where it's like, oh yeah, like Juve again, the refs, everything like that. Like I do feel like he kind of did mess up for Bologna as well, or like for us as well, I guess, because I do think at least one of those pens, either A, when Chiesa jumped up and the defender kind of like hit off his arm and went down, or B, even just him sliding across the box and it hit his arm. I don't know about you guys. I want to hear your opinion on it, but I don't know. I think it was like he kind of just messed up all over the board, and it was a really bad game referee wise.
Well, I mean, I wanted to ask you about Ealing Jr., but yeah, like bringing that up, it's like especially like the one where I'm like having a hard time to be like 100% that's a penalty is the one where he's sliding on the floor and he's going down and it hit his arm. It's because there's always been this argument about natural position of the arm. There's always been this discussion of like, yeah, is the arm in a natural position, or is it in a position where it's it's actually impeding the offensive play? I think last year there was another incident that was very similar and it actually happened to Juve. No, I think or was it Milan that it happened to? Somebody help me out here, Nick.
It was
Adrian.
Milan, Napoli. I think Tomori.
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, it was Tomori, but in the Champions League.
yeah.
Very,
So
pretty much copy paste.
Yeah, but that's a different rule set, so it can't apply. The Champions League technically has different rules in Serie A, but
technically it shouldn't. They're all under the same FIFA rules, but I understand what you mean. Like,
yeah,
it's different application. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So like that's the only one where I'm like, okay, well, an argument can be made, but a contact with the arm is still made inside the box. So that's where you're like, okay, come on, yeah, it's written in the rules. It's a handball. That's the definition of a handball. It's hard. That's the only one where I'm like, okay, well, it can go either way. How about you guys? That was the only one where I really had
I
like
mean, I had heard
luck
about
rough.
the one. I had heard about like well, I was kind of like reading a bit of with the arm in the when you're sliding and your arm is on the ground compared to as if it's like away from your body and you're kind of sliding and you kind of have it up. And if it hits you here, slash if you have it on your on the floor, it's like kind of two different perspectives. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of with Johnny on that
Yeah, because that makes sense. Because if it's
it's
up in the air while you're sliding,
yeah,
that shouldn't be up there. That's
that's not normal, right? It's
the sliding on the floor. Your arm being on the floor is basically to make sure that you're actually like not getting your freaking side like
yeah,
scratched completely or something. Like I don't know.
exactly.
That makes total sense. It's the arm, obviously the arm in the air. Totally, that would if the ball would hit the arm in the air. That's impeding the offensive play. If it's down
Yeah,
below, you're preventing yourself from getting injured. That's why it's a really tough call to make.
yeah, no, and I agree. And I mean, listen, the thing is that we're still here debating these things. We're still not even sure what is and what isn't a handball in the box. Is it everything that touches your hand, no matter what the situation is? No, because then there's certain cases where it's not, no pun intended, black or white, right? So, um, it's one of those that for me, we've seen it in the past get blown and not called. Um, you know, and we've seen it been called. We've seen both ways. So for these incidents like that, people are gonna cry. People are gonna get upset. Obviously, it's their team. I mean, you're entitled to that. But at the end of the day, we have to do better in terms of officiating, in terms of VAR. It came out in Gazzetta today. They were saying that Di Bello missed it, and it's not only on Di Bello, it's on the
He got
VAR
sus-
team as well.
he got
And
suspended for
he got
2 months
suspended.
now. Yeah, he's
Is
suspended
that
for
for
two
real?
months now. That's
2 months
Okay.
in October. Yeah.
yeah.
For a
Oh wow.
while.
Okay. So perfect. You filled me in on that. I did not see that. So, but again, it's not only on his shoulders. It's on. We have this tool, VAR, guys. We always say it, VAR, 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 to help. Sometimes it's not in the places to help. And again, for me, it's still not that we're concrete on what is and what isn't a handball, a penalty, like whatever it is. I feel like that's the biggest issue, and there's no clarity, and we're not communicating accordingly. For the Ewing Jr., for me, I'm sorry, it's a penalty. For me, at least, I do think he didn't. I don't think he touched the ball. I didn't see it. I didn't go in the extra slow mo and put on my binoculars and go and check it out. But from what I saw, guys, it was a penalty. And the offside for me again, it is offside. I mean, we've seen it in the past being called. I do find it bullshit sometimes, but my team has been on the wrong end of that as well, and it went the other way, and it kind of have to kind of accept it. Unfortunately, somehow Skorupski does get a hand on it, but again, there is some sort of impeding in the way, and you're in an offside position. So, we saw it against, last year. I think it was last year, Johnny, against Milan Napoli. We were at Chicharo's, and I still cannot understand. And again, you guys explained it to me, and we discussed it, and I still can't understand the certain calls of that nature. So, it was what it was, but I do like Nick's point that it was blown calls both sides. I don't think maybe you're going to say that it is a bit more in favor of Bologna, but again, Juve being Juve, I'm sorry, but you have to be better than that if you want to really compete and say you guys, oh yeah, we're Juve, we're top four material, and we're not, we're discussing shenanigans on a Monday night. So. It's unfortunate because I do think there should have been more from this game, and it got obviously overshadowed by the controversy. We're seeing a Vlahovic, who I think slowly but surely is kind of becoming a bit more of the Vlahovic that.
Yep.
I don't want to say old self. I don't want to go there yet and maybe our Nick has maybe a different perspective, but I don't want to go back there too soon, but just to see him a little bit more, just a bit more enthusiasm. He's a bit more hungry. He is tracking back a bit. He is kind of doing a bit more than what his normal role is. So for me, as a neutral, it's exciting because the competition is obviously higher. But if I'm a Juve fan, I mean, I'm excited to see these things kind of progress. Chiesa, one game on, one game off so far for me. Even though he had good moments in the game, and Pog back. I mean, I still don't think it's. I still think it's kind of a reach, but